One of the crucial questions that companies ask for doing business in Europe is about the way in which they can acquire local knowledge and they can transfer that knowledge from one entity and location to the other. I have had the chance recently to meet with Professor Laursen from Copenhagen Business School, who is going to give you some insight into this in this special context of Italian firms.
Okay, my name is Keld Laursen. I'm professor at Copenhagen Business School, and I've been here at CERAM to present a paper about European firms, in particular about Italian firms, and the relationship between internationalization and social capital on the other hand. So in producing this paper, we took the observation from the literature that in a period where we are facing internationalization, perhaps to the extent of globalization, then the local context may in fact not cease to matter. It may in various ways take a different role than before, and perhaps an even more important role than before.
Right, so companies have to see that yes, there's a single market, but yes, there are 27 particular markets that they have to get embedded in. Could you explain us how companies do that in this particular integrated context, and could you possibly make the distinction in your research between goods and technologies that are being sold in this particular context?
Okay, so the paper that I presented here at CERAM concerns the relationship between internationalization and social capital. We look at two dimensions of internationalization. One has to do with the exports, that is the internationalization of goods. It's a fairly traditional and also to some extent well-explored phenomenon. What we do that is new in this paper is that we link it to social capital in a way that I'll explain in a short while. What we also look at is another market that has become much more important over recent years, that is markets for technology. That refers, well, in our particular case, we look at firms selling licenses or patents abroad, that is away from their home country. What we do in this paper is that we have a set of theoretical arguments that pertains to the fact that social capital should be expected to actually drive internationalization processes.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. Companies that go across borders acquire their local knowledge better when they engage into social ties. That's to say that firms learn from each other, that they collaborate, and that they coordinate their activities in these particular contexts. We've seen that at your example of Italian firms going across borders. On the other hand, you also have observed an opportunistic behavior in these contexts, and you have also observed an inward-looking manner and approach of those managers in these entities, which seems to contradict what we can observe in many firms that go into local contexts to acquire more creativity and innovation. Did you come to any conclusions about this embeddedness? Is there any moment in time when companies become over-embedded?
So what we argue in terms of exports is that knowledge about how to export is a crucial concern for firms that want to export. And in this context, that social capital, measured as social interaction between individuals in a given region, that may be very helpful in that context. One can say that social capital is a mechanism that will allow knowledge and information to flow between different firms. And in this context, what is useful is to get knowledge about the export experience of other firms in the region. And we argue that having strong personal ties to other individuals in the region will facilitate this process. So in that sense, we look at social capital from a structural point of view. That is, it really measures the kind of networks that people participate in, rather than other things that are derived from this, such as trust. So, of course, there's a relationship between the two, so that trust derives from repeated social interaction. But as we argue in the paper, trust itself is extremely difficult to handle from an analytical point of view, and it's very difficult to measure. However, social capital does not only have, or so we conjecture, does not only have a positive effect on internationalization. Beyond a certain point, the social links that is created within the region may become detrimental to the process. And this is so because it will make individuals and managers more inward looking if they only focus on people from within the region. So social capital in that sense may become an obstacle where people look way too much inside the region and do not boundary span enough outside of the region. This can be a problem also because the management will only have a certain amount of attention that it can allocate to different links, and if it allocates all the attention to the local links, then it may not have enough resources to boundary span towards other social contexts outside of the region. So in fact, to summarize concerning exports, the relationship between social capital, the localized social capital at the European, rather more specifically the Italian level, is so that we expect an inverse U-shaped relationship between social capital and internationalization. So social capital is supposed to be good up to a point, but after that point, firms in the regions, maybe in these Italian regions, may become too introvert and maybe not be enough. May not be enough looking beyond the borders of the region. We also look at another dimension of internationalization. That's the internationalization of technology. In our case, we look at selling technologies in foreign markets. And also here, there may be many benefits from being well embedded in the local, in this case, Italian environment. In the sense that when firms want to produce innovations, it's very important that they get access to information about other individuals and organizations that can help them provide solutions to problems that they find as they search for new innovative products and designs. And if there's a high degree of social capital in a region, it may be more easy through these social networks to find these kind of solutions. Later on in the innovation process, we also know that it's very important that organizations collaborate. Perhaps firms will collaborate with a university or another firm in the same business or another business in actually producing this innovation. And in that process, it also becomes important to find the right partners for developing the innovation. And here again, social capital may be of very high importance. Again, we argue that if firms become too focused on working with the local environment, well then they would not be able to look for the solutions that may be a bit distant from themselves. They may look for solutions that are similar to what they have done in the past, and therefore they may not really be able to produce something that's an innovation. Rather, they will produce something that's very incremental and not very different from what they're already doing. So also in the case of markets for technologies, we expected to find this inverse U-shaped relationship. And what we did is that we made this set of arguments. We went out and we took our data set. We have data on about 2,000 Italian firms, and we have data on 21 Italian regions in which these firms are located. And we combine this data and we run some statistical analysis. And in fact, it turns out that for both of these markets, we can confirm the idea that social capital is good up to a point, but after that point, there's negative returns.